been taking my time. I feel like I'm out of my mind.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Project Mayday. These are your hosts G and Bree.
We have a unique podcast for you today. We have Pranay Manghirmalani, who actually is kind of the trifecta of first responders, and we're going to explore his journey going to a PTSD retreat. So this is actually going to be the first part where before he is heading there, and then we will interview the second part when he heads back, and we're going to see the effects, if it's positive or negative, of a PTSD retreat.
And something special about him, he is Indian, my man. A pleasure to have you on, buddy, because I thought I was the only one in this field. So glad to have another one of my brothers from back when on, buddy. Thank you for coming on.
I do want to highlight Pranay actually is in the Air National Guard currently. He did a small stint as a law enforcement officer, and he's currently a firefighter EMT with CAL FIRE. So when I said trifecta, he's really hit first responders, law enforcement, firefighter, and EMS.
Absolutely.
And military.
Welcome on, buddy.
Hi, Pranay.
I appreciate it. Thanks for having me on. How are you guys?
Good. So let's just start off, man. Hit it right off the bat. Tell us a little bit about yourself. Were you born in India or did you immigrate this way? What's going on?
Yeah, absolutely. No, I grew up in the Bay Area, born in the East Bay. To my parents, my dad's half Pakistani, half Indian, and my mom's Indian, and they moved out here in the late 80s. Had me, two younger brothers, so I was born stateside. But definitely grew up to a very, traditional style household. And yeah, it was nice growing up in the Bay Area. It was definitely difficult for me. Never really followed that track, I'd say, as a typical Indian guy. I'm not a doctor. I'm not working for some IT company.
Hey, absolutely,
and,
buddy.
Yeah, even this day still shunned by some of the family members. So, it was hard. It was hard growing up in that field. It was hard. We're the same age, right? So it's like growing up in that 9/11 era. Mm. We joke about it, but deep down, there's some shit that I'm never okay with. And that was tough. That was tough to deal with growing up in that area that's typically blue collar, as we call it, career field.
Yeah.
Definitely had the chance to go down the wrong path in the Bay Area. There's a lot of things that could have gone. A lot of people I hung out with who I shouldn't have hung out with, and thank God my mom got me in Boy Scouts and kind of went through that whole program as explorers and got my little Eagle Scout. But that kept me out of the streets. That kept me out of doing a lot of dumb stuff and gone through that wrong path. And unfortunately, a lot of friends who are locked up or even dead right now. So through that, just had that passion of helping people through Boy Scouts and got into the whole explorer thing in the peninsula, and just through that, here I am.
No, and I think it's important to have an outlet. How you were saying you grew up, post 9/11. I felt the same. Wrath of society and lumping you in with, being a terrorist or whatever the case may be. So I definitely. This is the first time we've had an Indian on the podcast, and I definitely feel the same way about society and how social media social media wasn't really around back then, but the news and how that plays a role in how they perceive a group of people, and we got lumped into that, and that's super unfortunate, but that's made us who the men we are today. And
absolutely. And
it definitely encouraged me to be a helper and to be a, lifesaver, being a fireman. That definitely got me into that realm, was the way I was being treated, because I wanted a different, I wanted them to have a different outlook on our people.
Yeah, no, and that's definitely was a huge point of me joining that career field, whether it was law enforcement or enlisting in the U.S. Air Force. But I'm sure you've experienced that as well. I mean, there was plenty of houses that I can name off right off my head of people that, I took into custody that, requested a white officer, or I wasn't going to go into that house because, I was the only guy of color on that engine crew. So, I mean, that shit still happens.
It's very real.
Absolutely.
So something that you did say, you said you knew you wanted to get into a field to help people, and you were a Boy Scout and you were Eagle Scout. It's very interesting that now you're headed into a PTSD retreat. So you are now maybe helping yourself. So can you tell us how mental health has affected your life?
So I never thought all this extra shit of drinking, of thoughts of suicide, thoughts of just not wanting to wake up, and depression would come from any of this. You know, I thought it was a cool thing when the fire engine showed up to my little Cub Scout troop, and the little lights and the sirens and the jaws of life, and the cop came with the shiny badge and the blue light. You know, I never thought ever that I would, like, well, I'm fucked up. Like, this is not cool. Like, I never thought that, you know, seeing dead children and shooting situations and seeing people die, and that compounding with home life problems put me into this extremely dark spot. So it sucks. So I'm in a super dark place right now, and I just never thought any of this would come. You know, so it's like different feelings of me wanting to blame the agency for making me work so much overtime during the absolute worst fire season of the year. Thank you, 2020. One more thing, you know, like thanks, you know, or you know, just even sitting at the firehouse for days, or not getting along with your significant other at home, whatever the case may be, or a rough call, but that rough call, everything added up, and yeah, I was done. I was done. So
no. Well, I want to highlight that you are, you know, seeking help, and that's the main point of this. You know, it's not that you're in a slump, or, you know, you got family problems and work problems, but you're actively looking for a way out, climbing out of that rut, and getting yourself back to where you want to be. And that's what we should highlight, is you're fighting for yourself. You know, I think that's the main thing here.
Yeah, and I think too, I think the intersections of who you are. You're a male, you know, you're perceived as an alpha male, military, you had law enforcement, you're fire, you know, you are younger, right? And you have all of these hats that you wear. And so I'm sure it was really hard for you to admit, hey, I'm kind of struggling here. I mean, I would imagine, if I was in your shoes, that maybe that journey was difficult to maybe ask for help?
It absolutely was. And seriously, the only thing that saved this was like another brother in the fire service. It happened to be one of my best friends. You know, I was one of his groomsmen at his wedding. Another firefighter medic for CAL FIRE. And, you know, he was the first guy I would really call. And I was like, dude, I don't know what to do. And immediately I went down and spent quite some time with him at his house, with him and his wife. And, you know, I definitely credit him for saving my life. If I didn't go talk to him, and I'm open about it now because I feel like that hopefully I'm on the upper end of things, and this retreat will hopefully put some closure to the pain that I've had, or having, I should say. But I think that I'm not even just preaching on like my union and what they're doing for me, sending me to this retreat because I reached out to a fellow brother, but more than less the best friend who cares what department he works for. And he reached out to another guy who was like, hey, here's a resource that you can call. And it was just someone cool. It wasn't someone who was like some weird therapist or something that I don't know, who doesn't understand. Like, I hate that, you know? It's like, oh, really? Like, thank you for your service. Like, I don't need to hear that shit. You know, I understand that. And that's why I think that what you guys are doing, like, is awesome, because, like, I know it's a heroic. I know, yes, I know we're on the front page of the newspaper. I know that. Like, I get it. Like, we understand. It's just,
yeah. And when you get put up on a pedestal, you know, it's hard to reach out and say you're not perfect.
It was. You know, I did a few podcasts this year, and like Black Rifle Coffee Company, they reached out to veterans, and awesome company. They gave out veterans in the fire service and gave coffee out free to a bunch of CAL FIRE stations. But it was hard because after that podcast ended, it was like, you know, I'm pretty screwed up. You know, the podcast is, you know, talking about the jobs and how we run into burning buildings, and we all do that or do CPR on a 2-year-old. It's great, but at the same time, it's like, there's part of me that regrets this career. Absolutely. It's like, what did I get into? Maybe my mom was right. Maybe I should have just got a job and went and got my bachelor's degree, like the traditional path, and sat in the office and never had to do CPR in the snow on a 2-year-old, you know?
No.
And that, so.
And no, man, just a little bit to that, because I felt the same way, you know, with my parents and whatnot. However, you know, the higher being, whoever you think
Right.
that is, gave you this life because you were strong enough to live it. And I think that's what we have to come back to, is we were given this life because we're strong enough to live the life that you've chosen to live. So don't forget that, man.
Absolutely.
You know, and I agree with that too. And at the same time, you know, your career, the problem with our careers is that it defines us. That's the problem, is we attach to the label, right? Like if people say, what do you do? The first thing I say is paramedic, right? Even though I'm also a teacher and I'm also all these things. It's like, that's my identity.
An awesome mother.
Thank you. I have a bunch of kids. No, but that it's linked to our identity. So the thought of maybe even doing a career change, I think, is terrifying, because you're like, do you want to leave a part of your identity?
Absolutely. And it's one of those careers, like as a paramedic, if I never was, I'm like, oh, do you use CPR on somebody? And it's hard. It's hard. Even like, I remember, you know, when you were dating or something like that on your first date, like, can we stop talking about my job, please? But it's one of those careers that people are so interested in. Mm-hmm. It's like, not everyone's like, oh, you're a fireman? Like, yeah, but I'm trying to date you. Like, what about me as myself? And even just like talking to somebody, that's why it's like, no, I don't want to wear any fire stuff off duty. You know, it's like, and that's hard. It's hard because it is one of those career fields. But,
and, you know, you talk about your first date and whatnot. So I want to kind of dive into the relationship aspect of it, because I know that's a big thing of why you're going to this retreat. Talk about that a little bit. Talk about, you know, the love of your life and how that's what's going on with that right now.
Well, you know, I don't want to dive too much into it, 100%, but it's hard, you know. I think that I can say this is whatever, you know, significant other that you have, or home life, whoever that may be, a relationship with, you know, your wife or your husband. It's hard because this career takes a lot out of you. So having that stable home life is crucial. And if you don't have that stable home life, and, you know, you drive home to work, and, you know, that 2-hour drive or however long that commute is, you're dreading going home, because, you know, that home life is going to be equally or even more stressful as if you just evacuating, you know, 8,000 homes in Paradise a few years ago. That is, you know, there's a problem there. There's a disconnect there. Mm-hmm. And there's a problem where I was hoping that I get forced on duty at work just so I don't have to go there.
Wow.
Or I can't wait to go to work, you know, and that's the difficult part about it.
Mm-hmm.
So,
it's a really good excuse, though. It's a really good excuse, right? Like, I'm forced hired. Sorry, I can't come home, to avoid problems.
Absolutely. And that's what I did for years. That's what I did for a lot of years, was just swept stuff underneath the carpet and tried to help, and never took care of myself. And I always I regret that I had to even, I regret, and I don't at the same time, that, you know, I'm flying to Colorado for a week and a half to go to this retreat. Because it's like, well, if I took care of myself after so many prior years, maybe I wouldn't have to get this place where, you know, I've just been sober now for the last 3-4 days. I just made that choice. But the last, you know, 3 or 4, maybe even longer than that, you know, I was drinking heavy every day, because that was the only thing that helped. It's tough. The home life's tough. So you got to have a stable home life, or at least try to, for at least one of these jobs. It's like, you need somebody.
Yep. And if somebody's not your spouse, and somebody is your brother or sister, just like you said, who saved your life, right? It does take a community. And I think that's why we're so passionate about Project Mayday. It is about starting the conversation. Right now, life sucks. And then you add in more trauma. And then you add in a disruptive home life. And then you add in, and then, you know, at some point, you know, now you're going to a PTSD retreat, and you're making this pivot in your life, which we're hoping is going to be this great transformation where you learn at least a few coping mechanisms. And being sober for 3 days, I mean, that by itself is difficult, right? You said you were drinking heavily all these things. Life is constantly evolving. So if you could say something to yourself right now, okay, of who you are right now, the Pranay you are right now, what would you say to yourself before going to the retreat? What do you want out of the retreat?
If I was talking to Pranay, I'd say, Pranay, don't quit on yourself. Don't procrastinate. See this thing through. Because that's what I feel like in life recently. I haven't seen things through. So just like follow through with a commitment. You're going to do something, to say it and you do it.
So what are you hoping to the part 2 that we're going to do with you? What's the hope or the aspiration of what you're going to get out of it, or what you're hoping to transcend?
Big thing that happened in my career that really set me off this dark, road that I went off was, last year, almost the date. Like I said, there was a 2-year-old. Did CPR on him, and it was hard. Obviously, didn't work out. The deputy there wasn't able to pronounce the child. They knew I was in law enforcement before. The mother was right there, so not only did I do CPR and work with this child for that long, I had pronounced the child to the mother there. So that was hard. And I had almost an identical call like that when I was 18 years old, working down, when I was working through the wildland stuff down in Sequoia National Park. My vehicle was into the river and almost the identical thing, minus the pronouncing part. And that coupled with this year, in fact, like you said, 2020 is not a good year. People just aren't happy. Whether you're on the Corona train or not, or you believe all this, what the fact is, like, it's just a lot of people have lots of jobs. A lot of people can't do what they want to do this year. And this year was hard. I feel like any day you could do this job and you see a home and, you do your job, you put out the fire. But this year I felt just hit a little bit different when it came to the amount of wildfires and the amount of homes that I saw and the amount of death that I saw, unfortunately, through the wildfires this year, which was rough. So all that just kind of set me back a little bit. And I felt weak because I'm not that guy. Quote, not that guy. I was always people would come to me and I was always, if they wanted to get stuff done, like, Pranay, knock it out. Pranay does whatever. Pranay does this. Pranay. There's people in my life that I kind of opened up to a little bit, and they put a cool shoulder to me because it's like, Pranay, don't be a pussy. And I was like, okay, well, thanks. I appreciate it. But it's like, I know, because I know, like, I'm with it. I've been to boot camp. I've been through a police academy. I've been through a fire academy. Like, I understand how to get yelled at. I know that paramilitary aspect of things. But, so I was scared. I was scared to reach out for help a little bit because I didn't want to be judged.
No.
Yeah.
And,
no, it's what you need at that moment. I mean, people should be able, or not people, but there's certain instances where tough love is warranted. There's certain instances where, love and compassion and empathy is warranted. And in your case, it's love and empathy and compassion and finding similarities on how, you and I are the same and whatnot to get you to in the right mindset to go to the retreat and get something out of it. But if your advice is, hey man, just toughen up, stop being a pussy, that's not the right mindset to go into a PTSD camp or whatnot. It's not the right mindset to go into. So you need to definitely have, you need to definitely have people around us that encourage us for the circumstances that we're in. And not just call you a pussy because that's the only thing that they know, how to come at you with.
Absolutely. I think the generation now that we're in is we're looking at that our supervisors. I'm definitely on that track to be that as well. But, my old senior captains, battalion chiefs, their senior supervisors were the Vietnam vets. You know, they were the old school guys. So it's like I can't even blame some of my supervisors for not necessarily knowing it because they haven't just been shown the way. You know, I think it's like in our generation that we're getting affected by it, and it's just a lot of people are like, yeah, there's the EAP number posted over there in the lockers right above the urinal. You know, call them because I be able to help. You know, that one board that you don't even see, and I'm like,
right.
Well, I need more than that. I don't want to call. You know,
right. And it's so sterile. You know, I mean, it's like, okay, I'm going to call a number, and then what? I mean, they don't know me.
Yeah, no, exactly. And you call this lady, and you know, I ended up doing it at the therapist stuff, which is nice, but it was still like some automated voicemail, some lady overseas, very great, stupid.
No, definitely. I've called that number, man. That number that you're saying that's on top of the urinal, you know, nobody looks at. I've definitely called that number, and it's just like you say, it's disconnected. It's not it's an automated, you know, kind of system, and that's what we need to get away from. That's what we need to get away from for sure.
And I think what I will credit specifically, you know, CAL FIRE as a whole and other agencies, you know, my buddies, is like we have like 7 or 8 battalion chiefs in Sacramento, and that's their job. And I thought it was a joke. We were like, wait, there's a battalion chief in charge of ESS? What the hell does that guy do? And no, I sat down with this individual on the beach in Monterey. You know, I was smoking a cigar because it was just easing my nerves, and I was talking to him and just vented to him about everything. You know, I'd call him by his first name. Yeah, he was a chief, but that's all he did. And he's the one my buddy introduced me to who set me up with this trip, this PTSD trip. And I didn't even have to, you know, I hated calling that ESS line and be like, oh, where's their therapist? Whatever. He said, hey, send me your address. Tell me how many miles. I'll take care of everything else. And within 24 hours, you know, I had a text message of 5 different therapists who already knew my situation who were willing to take me in. I didn't have to go through that whole point of, hey, you know, I'm sorry, I'm not taking new clients. And
yeah. You know, Pranay,
I think that's...
I know this is a bittersweet moment because I know you're flying out and you're going to go to this retreat soon, and it's the moment before.
Tomorrow. He's going
tomorrow. And it's pretty great. But this is a really important time to document because this is a changing point in your life. And the alternative could be suicide. Then what? Then it's the end. And then the ripple effect. You know, think of all the people you know, you're a savior for other people and you don't save yourself. And I am a child of my father committing suicide. And I talk about that in our intro podcast. And there was no sign because he was the jokester and the boss and the leader. And he had all these images he wanted to portray. So he didn't turn to anyone. He didn't call someone like you did. It hurt the ego, right? So you did that. You reached out to your friend and now you're on your way. And I'm sure... I can only imagine to be uncomfortable that, you know, we have our own thoughts of what a PTSD retreat would be. So I'm really excited for you.
I am. And that's, you know, when we were texting, you know, coming down Highway 80, coming down, leaving work. And, you know, I said, hey, how about this? And in my head, I was like, fuck no. Like, I don't want to do it. You know, I did think about it. It took a while for me to text you back. And, I thought about it, and it was like, if I was really close to taking my own life, extremely close. It was lined out. I knew what to do, and that was the dangerous part. They said if you have a plan, and yeah, I did. You know, I did, and I just realized, you know, I didn't care. I know a lot of people would be hurt if I'm gone, I know, but I didn't care. You know, it's just me. But I realized that. Okay, if I can actually talk about this, if I can successfully graduate this program in Colorado, if I can come back and hop back on the fire engine, which I will, I'm working the next day I fly back. And if I could even sit down with my crew at my station and talk about this, and some guys will, like, yeah, cool, whatever, you know, this is awesome, glad you figured your shit out, and I'll get back on the fire engine. And then there'll be some people that hopefully that may be quiet who realize that there is help. And if I can save somebody else's life, maybe one day I can be that battalion chief that'll meet a young, you know, seasonal firefighter down the road.
That's it, man. That is beautiful. That's what it's all about. That is why you got into it. It's to save lives, right?
Yep.
So it might not have been the picture perfect, like, hey, I'm going to save a baby out of a burning building. you put it out there that you want to save lives, and this is a way that you might be saving lives in the future, is to let your story be known and see who it affects.
Absolutely, brother.
All right, Pranay. Well, we're going to contact you and do a follow-up part 2. And after you come back from your retreat, and we're really excited to start that conversation.
Absolutely, buddy. Hey, thank you so much again, buddy. I know it takes a lot of courage and bravery. What you're doing right now is, this is what it is to be a man. This is what it is to be a man.
This is what it means to be a first responder.
Absolutely. All right, brother.
All right, Pranay.
You take care, and we'll see you soon. All right, buddy?
Absolutely. See you guys.
Absolutely. This is Project Mayday. Call out.